Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming to you from right here in our quaint little studio, brought to you in part today by our friends at Miracle Made and Harry's. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, TV and streaming, and all sorts of good stuff. Not just giving you our opinions, but hopefully giving you some information and context so you guys can form your own well-informed opinions, whether they're the same or even different than ours. Joining me in studio today, got Ray Ora.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Got Jonathan Voico.
Hello, good morning.
The Snyder is here today. Jeff Snyder's here.
Excited to be back. Thanks for having me, John.
Good to have you. And most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and making today's show part of your day. And here's how it's going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a bunch of predetermined topics. And then in the second part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. Now, we already asked our beloved YouTube channel members earlier in the day in the community tab to send in some questions. And then, of course, we opened up the Super Chats. However, as happens sometimes, the Super Chats got filled up before we even started the show. So the Super Chats are now closed, but all you sent to those questions, we'll get to those, as long as they're appropriate to be read on the show, in the second part of the show. All right, guys, it is a full docket today, so let's get things going with this. You guys may have heard that Paramount has put up the for sale sign, and they're entertaining different offers right now. They are in the midst, getting near the end of, an exclusive 30-day window where they will only negotiate with Skydance. Skydance has made what they call their final and best offer. But not to be deterred, there's another potential buyer out there. Sony Pictures, partnering with Apollo, have publicly announced that they are making an offer of $26 billion in cash to buy all of Paramount. This comes to us from Variety, who writes the following. In the latest twist in the Paramount Global's merger and acquisition saga, Paramount Pictures Entertainment and Apollo Global Management reportedly have made a bid to take Paramount private with an all-cash buyout offer of $26 billion. Sony and private equity giant Apollo submitted an offer letter Wednesday to Paramount Global that is a quote-unquote starting point for discussions and is non-binding. The Wall Street Journal reported on Thursday. The reported bid comes as Paramount Global's board's special committee established to consider mergers and acquisition proposals is evaluating the best and final offer from Skydance Media to merge Paramount and Skydance while keeping Paramount Global public, which means publicly traded. You can be a shareholder in that. Sherry Redstone, the controlling shareholder of Paramount Global, is known to prefer consummating a deal with David Ellis and Skydance, whose bid is backed by Redbird Capital Partners and KKR. Okay, so basically, Sherry Redstone, her preference is to kind of keep Paramount all together if they sell it. And Skydance's, while not keeping the offer they put together does not keep the entire company all together, it keeps most of it together. But Jeff, you can't sneeze at how many? $26 billion offer.
All cash.
All cash. Now, of course, the drawback is that they'll probably want to break up the company into its various parts, probably keep Paramount Pictures as its own thing. But, I mean, this is something they're going to have to consider. Jeff, what do you make of this offer that Sony's making? And what do you think the odds are that Paramount closes a deal with Skydance before the end of their exclusivity window, or that they wait to have negotiations with Sony at this point? How do you see it?
I don't think that they will close a deal before the end of the exclusivity window. I do think that they will, hear out Sony and Apollo, and they'll have to really consider this $26 billion offer. I mean, there's no question that it is bad for the industry in the sense that it would mean one less buyer, right? And it'd be a ton of layoffs, right? Because there's so much overlap between the staff. But I think that for the long-term future of Paramount's assets, it makes the most sense to merge with Sony. And it makes the most sense for Sony to want to get in on Paramount because, Sony's been content being an arms dealer for all these streamers lately because it doesn't have its own. I think Sony would benefit from having a Paramount Plus, whatever they end up calling it. I think that there's a lot to like about Sony Apollo as far as from an investor point of view. I just don't think it would be great for like the studio's employees.
So ultimately, at the end of the day, though, where did they go with it? I thought it was interesting that Sony said in the letter, this is a starting point for discussion. Does that tell you that Sony's maybe even willing to up that offer a little bit at this point?
I mean, I don't know how much higher they could really go. 26 to 28 really feels like the target for what Paramount is worth. I don't know why they'd pay like a huge premium for it, considering how the business has kind of been failing. So I think that is a fair offer. But you're right. They could throw another $1 billion or $2 billion on top, just to sweeten the pot.
There's another wrinkle in all this, which is from the reports that we're reading, Sherry Redstone would prefer to sell it to Skydance because they will, for the most part, keep the company together. However, there's also word going around that a lot of the shareholders in Paramount may sue Paramount if they don't look at a deal from like Sony and Apollo, because that will get the shareholders the maximum amount of money at this point, or at least that's what it looks like right now.
Right, and that's the board's fiduciary duty, right, to just at least consider it, because they're being accused of basically self-dealing and taking the deal that's going to give Sherry Redstone the biggest payout. Now Skydance did sort of change its offer a little bit and restructured it so that the Class B investors would be taken care of a little bit more. So I think that they hear, the criticism of their offer, but I just don't see what the rush is to take that Skydance offer.
And the other interesting thing is too, Skydance has said that the offer they just made is they've made it public. This is our final offer,
right.
Final best offer. So whereas Sony's saying we'll do $26 billion, and by the way, that can just be the start of the conversation. Maybe we can go a little higher. Maybe we can sweeten the deal more. Whereas Skydance is saying, this is it, take it or leave it. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes at this point. Anyway, guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this? It looks like Paramount, it's going to get acquired. Now, whether it merges in with Skydance for whatever amount that ends up being, or whether they hold out and then see what the Sony bid gets up to, we'll have to wait and see. What do you think is going to happen here? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Fast and the Furious is a model of a franchise that really ran itself into the ground, or in outer space, if you will. I am notoriously didn't love the first 3 Fast and the Furious movies. I'm on record. I thought the first Fast and Furious was a blatant plot point by plot point ripoff of Point Break. I didn't like 2. I didn't like 3. But all of a sudden around number 4, I'm like, this wasn't bad. And then 5 was great, and 6 was great, and 7 was great, and I even liked 8. And then 9 and 10 came around, and they were utter total disasters. 10 was just abysmal, maybe even a little bit better than 9, though, at least. Well, Fast and the Furious 11 has an announced release date of April of 2025. Well, don't hold your breath, because it's starting to look like 2026 at the earliest, as we're getting word that Fast and Furious 11 probably isn't even going to start shooting until 2025. This comes to us from the folks over at Digital Spy, who write the following. Fast and the Furious' upcoming 11th movie has been given a disappointing filming update by star and my number 1 fan, Tyrese Gibson. The film, which acts as a second part to last year's Fast X, is slated to be released in April 2025, though Gibson has admitted that filming is not likely to begin until early 2025, meaning the movie almost definitely will be pushed back. I'm hearing that we're going to get it going right in 2025, right at the top of the year, Gibson added. I think right now the pressure is to elevate the movie and take the film to some other level. Other than space? As you've seen, Gal Gadot and The Rock are back, which is exciting. Okay, so Tyrese is saying, and there's no reason not to believe him on this, that they're going to get this thing going and rolling, but not until the beginning of 2025. Now, he says it had a lot to do with the writer's strike, which I don't know if you've seen any Fast and Furious movies. Not a lot of writing. Not a lot of writing in the Fast and Furious movies. But whatever. So 2011. Listen, I'm not saying I don't believe that the reason they're delaying this so long, it's probably going to be at least a year delay, is because of the writing. I'm not saying I don't outright believe that, but I think you'd have to be a little bit naive to not acknowledge that probably another reason for this huge delay we're about to get was the reception of Fast 10, was the fact that we've heard a lot of reports saying that the studio's gone to Vin Diesel and the producers and saying, you got to cut back the budget massively on this thing, and probably trying to retool the direction they want to go. Jeff, one of the things that they said in this, and we've heard this too, is that they want to take this back to the street a little bit more, like get it back to the heart of what Fast and the Furious,
right?
You know, because you hear a lot of people saying, remember when Fast and Furious used to be about car racing? So they're saying a lot of that might fit in with the budgetary stuff. What have you heard about this? Does this move, like, probably at least until 2026 surprise you? And where do they go from here?
Yeah, honestly, I'm like confused about this whole thing, and I feel like I have my finger on the pulse of this franchise. What I was under the impression was that Universal's focus was going to be on the so-called Bridge movie that was going to bring back Dwayne Johnson as Luke Hobbs. And that's supposed to bridge Fast X and Fast 11. So it's like I'm surprised that we haven't heard more about that project. And
I heard that they were going to have a meeting about setting it up, and Dwayne Johnson was 7 hours late for that meeting.
Boy.
So I'm just thinking maybe
They
that
did
had
bring
something to
extra
do with
bottles for him just in case, though.
it. They brought in all the extra pee bottles for him, but yeah.
So it's like I don't know. I listen. I know Digital Spy said, "Oh, we're disappointed because it means a delay." Well, it's like I'm actually excited that they're willing to delay this movie rather than just toss it out half-assed to make a release date. Right? That is why this
Never
franchise
stopped them before.
Right? Exactly. But that's why this franchise is where it is. So it's like let's take the time and actually write a good Fast movie that does harken back to its roots and thus would bring down the budget, because these budgets have ballooned to like $300 million, and it's impossible for these sequels to turn a profit for Universal.
I mean, to your point, Fast 10 was one of the top 5 most expensive films ever made in Hollywood history. Like, for Fast 10, that's utterly ridiculous.
Well, they went to space. You think space is cheap?
You think space is cheap? Or was that 9? I can't even
That was
remember
9,
now.
I think.
Was that 9?
Okay, so they came back from space.
Yeah,
Yes,
the
coming back from
re-entry
space
was
is
very
not cheap.
expensive.
Just as expensive to come
Yeah.
back from space. But I don't know. Here's hoping. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, like 700 million worldwide is not enough. Like if you're making a movie at that price, you're thinking that it's going to break $1 billion.
Look, and if you're making a movie from what they said, I mean, with marketing and everything, came north of $400 million
Right.
to make this thing.
Yep.
Like, if you're making a movie that's $700 million at the box office isn't a good result, then you got to re-examine how you're making these movies.
Right. And it's not like they're trimming back on cast. Like they still want, Tyrese back, and they still want Ludacris and all these people. So it's like, well, if you're not going to cut back on this giant ensemble, then you have to cut back on what you're having the ensemble do and where you're having them go. And that's my impression, is that instead of being this globe-trotting adventure with like a dozen different major city locations, it'll be set in like 1 or 2 places, basically.
Dom's garage.
It's going to be a sitcom?
It's a one-set garage, 2 hours of conversation. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? It's looking like we're not going to get Fast 11 till at least 2026. If what Tyrese is saying is true, and there's no reason to believe it's not, what do you think about this? Where do you think they need to go with this franchise as they finish it out with number 11? Maybe you're a fan of 9 and 10. Just because I didn't like them doesn't mean you didn't like them. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, that down. Let's move on to this, shall we? Speaking of movies that got delayed, Captain America 4. Also known as Captain America New World Order, also known as Captain America Brave New World, also known as Captain America Where's Chris Evans, is coming. And I love Anthony Mackie. So they showed us a bunch of footage of this at CinemaCon. And listen, I got to say, I liked what I saw. I'm still a little bit nervous about this project, to be honest with you. But they came out on stage and talked about how they wanted to return this Captain America movie to that DNA of like Captain America Winter Soldier, that 70s espionage political thriller kind of feel. And they said, that's what we're going to bring this back to. Said, no time travel in this one, no multiverse.
Taking it back to the streets.
Taking it back to the streets with family. And they're going to get back to that kind of political thriller kind of feel. And then they showed us some footage, and I liked what I saw. It looked pretty good. Well, we've been getting some looks at the costume of Captain America. It's obviously changed a lot from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But now there's another new look. And that new look is a very Ant-Man looking kind of mask. Here's a new promo image that they just put out. And on the one side, it's the illustration of the new Falcon. Of course, Sam's buddy from the show is now the new Falcon, and Sam is the new Captain America. And it's got a very Ant-Man-y kind of looking helmet. And should Cap have a helmet like that? Like, going back to the whole thing about the comparison to Fast 11, I don't know, maybe they're going to space. But Anthony Mackie had some interesting things to say about this and talking about the direction that the film is going. And it came out as this. This comes to us from the folks over at comicbookmovie.com who wrote, Anthony Mackie recently said that this movie is quote unquote 10 times bigger than his Disney Plus series and addressed the dynamic between Cap and the new Falcon, Joaquin Torres. They're evenly yoked, he teased. They're both military guys. I was his commanding officer. We have more of a friendship as opposed to the way I admired Steve or the way I didn't like Bucky. He goes on to say, this movie is a clear reset. That's interesting. A clear reset. It reestablishes, I should say, the idea of what this universe is and what this universe is going to be, Mackie added. I think with these movies, you're getting a clear new branding of what Marvel is headed towards, the same way they did with Captain America, the Winter Soldier. All right. Before we get on to the mask and the helmet, which I thought was interesting, I want to just touch on this a little bit. Like I said in the intro, they mentioned and drove home at CinemaCon that this was really a more grounded Marvel movie. No, Kevin Feige said, no time travel, no multiverse, it's all this kind of stuff. Now, you pair that statement with what Anthony Mackie just said, saying this movie is the reset. This movie is the template of what Marvel is going to be heading into the future. In a movie that Kevin Feige said has no time travel, no multiverse, is that what Anthony Mackie is referring to? That the MCU is going to reel itself back in to become a little bit more grounded again? Or is he talking about personnel?
Maybe specifically Captain America.
Maybe
The reset of
specifically a resetting of just Captain America, but he's talking about when Anthony Mackie says this universe. So it's really kind of interesting. Anyway, Jeff, you heard the comments that we just read from Anthony Mackie. What do you make of those comments, and where do you think that he's implying the MCU as a whole is heading towards?
Well, I think, it doesn't all need to be cosmic, and every movie doesn't need a giant light and a portal, shooting out of the sky. My favorite of the Disney Plus series was the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because it was grounded, because it felt a little bit more realistic. I'm not a big sci-fi fantasy guy. This felt more like action thriller and like Winter Soldier, like a conspiracy paranoia tinge 70s spy series or something. So I really liked the footage that we saw at CinemaCon, John. I like that whole sequence with the attack on the White House. And I think what Mackie's just getting at here is that this corner of the universe is going to, be a little bit more Winter Soldier-y, and I think that also has to do with budget too, right? I mean, you don't have Chris Evans anymore. I imagine that this Captain America is going to be super expensive because of the reshoots and what a disaster it's been. But I think in general, they're probably greenlighting Captain America movies a little bit under what they were before.
No, yeah, completely. And you know what? The footage they showed us at CinemaCon, this attack on the White House, it reminded me a lot of the opening to X-Men 2. With the Nightcrawler attack on the White House, which, by the way, I think is the second greatest opening to any comic book movie. Funny, my two favorite openings to any comic book movie are both X-Men movies. X-Men 1 with the concentration camp and a young Magneto. That was that scene was the signal to Hollywood and the world that comic book movies can be very different now. And then they follow that up with that Nightcrawler attack on the White House. But yeah, that scene they showed us, Jeff, at CinemaCon was really reminiscent of that.
You know, I just want to go back to the actual promo art of the helmet.
Oh, sure.
I'm hoping that means we get a lot more flying. Like, you know what I mean? Like in the air stuff. Because I think like whenever Falcon does take his wings and goes up and like, I want to see more battles. Maybe whoever he's opposing he's going to need those wings to,
He always seems to just use them to get somewhere and then he's grounded. So
Well, I'm gonna take a different position than you.
Okay. So you're on the helmet, just on the helmet itself.
See,
right?
the helmets themselves, which I'll bring up on screen here for everybody again. The helmets, the Falcon helmet, I'm fine with, because Falcon, like you said, is an aerial character, right? If these are Transformers, Falcon's an aerial bot.
Right.
I don't care about Torres. I don't care. To me, Sam is Falcon.
Right.
But that's fine. I'll put that aside for a second. So I don't care about Torres. So I don't care about Falcon anymore. Look, I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying that's fair. I'm not saying that's unfair. I'm just telling you the way it is. I don't care about Falcon anymore. And Cap is not a flying character.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So you think they're going to clip his wings in Brave New World? He's not going to use.
I think they both fly.
No
I honestly don't know, because if he's just still got the wings, which I mean, if you're Sam Wilson and you have access to the wings, why wouldn't you use them? I get that. That's a fair argument.
well, you need that to augment yours because he's still just a human.
Yeah. So he has no super serum.
That's true. He has no super soldier serum, but
Yeah.
but to me, if you, okay, I might be right and I might be wrong about this, and I'm open to having my mind changed. But if Sam still has the wings, he's still Falcon.
So then maybe the other guy's Hawk.
I think he'll always be, he'll always be Falcon in part, I think, to this audience. And I think what you're getting at with Torres, you're right. Like, I don't care because he feels like a TV character, doesn't he?
Well,
Right.
it came from TV.
Yeah.
I think that's what they're banking on. They're going to sell this friendship to us in this movie,
Maybe.
where we actually care about.
Yeah. Because I like their dynamic. I did. I like their dynamic in the series. But Jeff is somebody who really liked the show a lot. I felt they did almost nothing in that series to lay the groundwork that this is our new Cap and Falcon.
100%. You're right. No, that was definitely the Sam and Bucky show.
Yeah,
Torres
and
was an
they probably
afterthought.
should have done a little bit more to prep us for this, because going into the show, I'm like, I don't care about Torres. I want to see Sam and Bucky, and hopefully the movie can change my mind on that. But
how's he going to see eye to eye with Red Hulk if he doesn't fly? Right?
and there is going to be Red Hulk.
Yeah.
We are going to have a Red Hulk, but
I mean, just be glad it's not Iron Man tech that they're using.
oh my God, yeah, don't even get me going on that. But I think you're right, Ray. I think the helmets clearly show, because even in the one picture, not only is it the helmets, you see the wings.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is going to be.
Those wings ain't clips.
See how much impact Top Gun Maverick has on me? I want to see flight and everything.
That's what his name is. It's Falcon and Goose.
Falcon and Goose.
Yeah.
By the way, and I will say, opening episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Sam attacking the helicopters and all that whole aerial battle sequence that opened the series was fabulous. That was fabulous. So I could be down for that. But again, I worry that if Sam just keeps the wings, then he's still just
Yeah.
Falcon 2.0 rather than Captain America.
He's gonna fall in a vat of super soldier serum. Then
You know what?
it'll-
Okay, let me ask you guys this. Over or under 65%, over or under 65%, that in this movie at some point, Sam gets the super soldier serum. Ray,
Over.
over or under?
Under.
Under 65%. Jonathan.
Unless they're bringing back Chris Evans, over.
Okay. Jeff.
I think under.
So you don't think he's going to take the super soldier serum? All right.
I
I'm
like
gonna
the vulnerability. I like the vulnerability, especially if they're going to go the way they're saying they're going to go.
But now, isn't U.S. Agent? He did take the serum in the series, right?
Yes, he did.
So he is a super soldier now.
Yes.
Walmart Captain
It's a
America.
villain choice.
Yeah.
It's a villain choice. So I'm just curious if Red Hulk's going to be a part of this. What exactly is Sam or
I guess call me a villain.
Torres
'cause I'd
going
be
to
taking
do? I mean, I don't know. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about a couple of the things here? Number one, the illustrations and the promo art of the new helmets for both Falcon and Cap. And then what do you think about the comments that Anthony Mackie made? He's such a good actor. But what do you think about them? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? I think it is not an exaggeration to say that my absolute favorite breakout star of this past year or so is Anna Sawai from Monarch. Initially is where I first saw her, and I loved her in that. And then realizing, oh my God, she's also in Shogun. She's amazing. But here's something interesting. According to a news story in the Hollywood Reporter, we could have found out about her and discovered her like 8 years ago. Because apparently she was invited to come in. They were looking at her and wanted her to play Katana in David Ayer's Suicide Squad. But at the time, as the story goes, she was a part of a J-pop group and her management said, no, you can't do it. This comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter, who said this. It turns out that Anna Sawai, the breakout star of the hit FX series Shogun, and of course Monarch, might have broken out even sooner had she not been denied the audition for a dream project. The 31-year-old J-pop singer, speaking with the Hollywood Reporter's Award Chatter podcast, revealed that she was forced to turn down an audition for the part of Katana in the 2016 film Suicide Squad, which was eventually played by Karen Fukuhara, because the company behind Fakie, the name of her group was Fakie? It's Faky. I don't know. The girl group to which she then belonged forbid it. She explains it this way. During the training, she was excused to play a role in the 2009 film Ninja Assassin, which she says led to her falling in love with acting. She says she was assured by her management ahead of joining 4 other young women in Fakie in 2013 that being a part of a successful girl group would help her further break into acting. But soon thereafterwards found that extracurricular acting would not, in fact, be permitted. She's told the story this way. When a quote-unquote big audition for an American movie, Suicide Squad, came up and the filmmakers were looking for a Japanese girl, Sawai recalls, I was like, this is my chance. And then I go to my manager and he's like, you can't audition. They basically told me that if I'm gone for over a month, the girls, the other member of Fakie, are not going to have anything to do. She protested that the group would be helped if she got the role in Suicide Squad, but the answer was final. It felt like they were really tying me down, she said, and because of my contract, I couldn't leave until the time that I actually left in 2018. I'm not going to lie. I'm sitting here today a little bit annoyed that we didn't get to have Anna Sawai in our lives a little bit sooner than what we got, because all of our lives need more of her. I've said for a while, you know, I think I won't bring that back up again. I'll just say this. Anna Sawai belongs on screen, man. Like her portrayal in Monarch was fabulous. And then to step into something like Shogun and just own the screen the way she owned it for such a little package, she carries a lot of power. Because, like, she's a short girl, but I mean, she carries so much power on screen, and obviously doesn't hurt. She's probably, I'll put her in the top 5 male or female most attractive people working in Hollywood today. Like, she's stunningly beautiful and carries that power. But I'm also going to say this. I kind of get why her management said no. Because if you're part of a girl group and you want to go off for 1 or 2 months, and that literally means your group can't do anything, they just got to sit around and do nothing for what might end up be a nothing movie, I kind of get why they said no. But I also kind of wish their management had better foresight to think this could be really good for the group. I mean, I don't know. But the reality is, though, Jeff, I imagine that this is probably not a unique story in Hollywood. That there's probably, I mean, we all know about the Indiana Jones thing with Tom Selleck, but he was under contract to do Magnum PI and he couldn't be Indiana Jones. I got to imagine this happens a lot in the business. What did you think of when you heard about this story?
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like a catch-22. Like the group would benefit from her going off and becoming some big celebrity in Hollywood, but at the same time, yeah, I mean, it's not really fair to everyone else in the group if she just gets to leave and go do something else for a month or two, leaving their hands tied. So I do think it's tricky. I think you're right. It is a common thing that happens throughout Hollywood where people are under holding deals and non-competes and all kinds of stuff. And that's not just, actors, but directors and executives too. I know that there was a big California ruling about non-competes as well. But yeah, I think it's, Hollywood's about making choices, right? And it's like in this instance, she chose the musical route, and that meant that her acting ambitions were going to have to wait a little while. But you know what? It all worked out in the end, right? Like I'm a firm believer that things, you get the parts that you should get, and you miss the parts that, probably weren't for you all along. Karen Fukuhara did a great job in that movie, and I'm glad that Anna said something about her performance. And now look at her, like she's killing it, right? Who knows if she had done Suicide Squad, if she would have gotten the opportunity to do Shogun and Monarch, because, people would have said, oh, well, we've already seen her. She doesn't feel like a fresh face or a new discovery, All
right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Apparently, we could have had her in Suicide Squad, had her even sooner. But maybe you feel like Jeff just pointed out, maybe it all worked out for the best, that she was able to explode onto the scene in the last year or so. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we still got a number of things to talk about. Cobra Kai has released the first teaser for their final season that's going to be released in 3 parts. Also, Paul Walter Hauser, it's kind of his world right now. He just signed up to play Chris Farley in a biopic, and he's joining Liam Neeson in the new Naked Gun remake. And Jonathan Nolan, writer of the Dark Knight trilogy. Of course, he was the big exec over at Westworld, and now just finished directing Fallout. He's saying it would be a dream to return to the world of the Dark Knight, and he'd love to do it. We're going to talk about that and a few things more. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends. Who are our friends?
Oh,
Miracle Made.
Miracle Made.
Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Miracle Made. Did you know that your temperature at night can have one of the greatest impacts on your sleep quality? If you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Inspired by NASA, Miracle Made uses silver-infused fabrics and makes temperature-regulating bedding so that you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. When they arrived at our house, my wife Ann loved the feel of them so much, she couldn't even wait for me to get home to put them on our bed. Miracle Made has self-cleaning. These sheets are infused with silver that prevents up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. Miracle Sheets also have incredible comfort and quality. Miracle Sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands and feel as nice, if not nicer, than sheets used by some 5-star hotels. So go to TryMiracle, that's TryMiracle.com/Campea to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code Campea at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you will get a full refund. So upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to TryMiracle.com/Campea and use the code Campea to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's TryMiracle.com/Campea to treat yourself. And thank you to our friends at Miracle Made for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Somehow, some way, Cobra Kai, a show that was a great idea and started as a YouTube original. A lot of people forget that now. The first 2 seasons of Cobra Kai were a YouTube show that then jumped over to Netflix. It's heading now into its final season, and a couple of big things just came out about it. Now, I'm going to admit, I'm not a fan of Cobra Kai. I was as, if not more excited about it than anybody when they announced it. and it just didn't work for me. I've tried jumping in a couple of episodes every single season to see if I can get back on board with it. Just doesn't work for me. That's fine. My wife loves it. Most of my friends love it. I'm just letting you guys know it just didn't work for me. That's all. But there's no denying that it's been wildly successful. Huge hit. And now we're going to the final season, and two big things have been announced. First, the first trailer has dropped, a little bit of a teaser, just a little bit of a tease. Seeing Kreese saying, Cobra Kai is back. And also the word that Netflix, as a lot of us predicted, is continuing on with this experiment of breaking seasons into various parts instead of dropping them all at once. And in this case, not in 2 parts like they did with Stranger Things, but into 3 parts. This comes from the folks over at IndieWire who wrote the following. And you thought waiting for the back half of a Stranger Things season was agonizing. Netflix is splitting the final season of Cobra Kai season 6 into 3 parts. Now, that's fine. You guys remember Stranger Things dropped part 1 of their last season, and then like 1 month later, dropped part 2.
Yeah.
This is a little bit more extreme. You read that right. Though it has become commonplace for Netflix to divide new seasons of its biggest hits into 2 parts, this is the first time the streamer has split a season of any series into 3 parts. Next up, the next up example, by the way, I thought Arcane broke it into 3 parts as well, but at any rate, the next up example of a hit, Netflix original being halved, is mere weeks away. The 8-episode Bridgerton season 3 will premiere and then have its second half. But listen to this. Cobra Kai season 6 premieres on July 18th, and part 2 not until November 28th. 4 months later, and then part 3 sometime in 2025. So the first part will drop, the first 5 episodes. I'm going to guess since it's 15 episodes that they're going to drop it evenly, 5 episodes, 5 episodes. That's my guess. They might not, but first 5 episodes in July, and then the next 5 episodes not until November 28th. The final part then coming sometime in 2025. Okay. The first thing I think that we need to recognize is the fact that this experiment of theirs to break up, hit shows and seasons into various chunks is one that has worked for them, right? Like the network executive Netflix, you guys remember this, with Cobra Kai, or not with Cobra Kai, with Stranger Things, and they broke it up into 2 parts. They said, clearly this worked because the initial anticipation and rush of viewers for the second part was even outdoing the first part, which meant it built anticipation. We've been making the argument around here for years that the data doesn't lie. The data has definitively proved if you have a good show, it's got to be good, and you release week to week, your success will be much higher. Because new audiences will jump on board. Everybody talks about it, becomes the water cooler. What did I say after Fallout ended? After we finished watching Fallout? I said next week, no one's going to be talking about Fallout. Did we have any questions come in the last week about Fallout?
No, it lasted.
None.
It lasted like 2 weeks. The conversation.
None.
It was a great show, though.
It was a great show, though. But you know what?
I just don't have
We talked Shogun for months.
Yeah.
We talked WandaVision for months.
And it's that much longer. You got to wait for the next season too, because if it all drops in a week, you got to wait 51 weeks.
It's even longer. So Netflix has been experimenting, and it's a good thing to experiment with, by breaking seasons in half, and they've seen that that's really been working for them. So I love the fact that they're doing it again with Cobra Kai, but they're taking the experiment even further. Instead of breaking into 2 pieces, we're going to break it into 3. This, to me, makes sense. It's a good next step for them.
Do you think the second season of Fallout, they're going to do it differently?
Yeah, I think second season of Fallout, they're going to be doing it week to week.
100%
they're going to do week to week. But here's the part I don't understand. With Stranger Things, drop a bunch of episodes, wait 1 month, bring it back. The momentum's still there. The heat's still there. All that kind of stuff. July to November? I got to tell you, Jeff, this is I don't see the logic here. Now, our own Jonathan Voico pointed out before the show is that they probably wanted it to end closer to the launch of the new movie, which I get. That makes sense. Then why not just move the whole season? I don't know. Jeff, you read about this. How do you make heads or tails out of this?
Yeah, this is a function of two things. The strikes, first and foremost, right? So because of last year's strikes, there's less content. And so Netflix can't, it has less shows. And so if it's like, well, we've got 4 episodes of Cobra Kai in the can, should we just put those out rather than waiting for the whole, for all the episodes to come in? I think that's what they have to do, is they have to just, do drips and drabs kind of. And the other thing is Wall Street. July 18th, that's Q3. November 28th, that's Q4. And then the finale would come in probably Q1 of 2025. So that is literally taking a big show and just dragging it out through 3 separate financial quarters, right? To keep subscribers.
Wow.
It's like, oh, I'm a Cobra Kai guy. I got to stay subscribed for these 3 quarters. That's really kind of what it's all about. And then, like you said, with the movie comes out May 30th, 2025. They pushed it back from Christmas. And I think that, yeah, the finale event is going to hit Netflix before the movie, right? The movie will sort of follow up Cobra Kai.
I like what Isaac Cushman, one of our live viewers, is saying. They say if they dropped June, July, and August, it could have been the event of the summer for a lot of people. And it's true. But I think Jeff brings up a really, really good point. Part of the reality of streaming is retention. And maybe like for those business quarters saying, hey, now you can't, because listen, one of the biggest enemy right now of streaming isn't even piracy, it's churning.
Yeah.
People who sign up, watch the show they want to watch, unsubscribe, and then wait till the next show comes out. And this is their way of like saying, hey, just hang in because we got all these months. I mean,
with Peacock raising the prices, that churn is going to become a bigger problem, I think.
Well, with all the...
Yeah, with everything.
Yeah.
People are, like you said yesterday, people are going to start weeding out what they don't use at all. Like, people who subscribe to things and haven't even turned it on for a while.
Well, this is why bundling is starting to become a thing, right? We've started seeing a number of companies like Verizon, whatever, offer, hey, you get Peacock and Max and whatever. These bundles are going to become more and more popular for the streamers to do because it will reduce churn. Hey, I've got my bundle with Max and Disney Plus. Oh, I finished watching the show on Max, but I'm not going to unsubscribe from my bundle because I got this show coming out on Disney Plus and I want to watch it. So their hope is to cut back on churn. And maybe this is a way to combat churn. But I just feel like they're sacrificing, it's penny wise and dollar foolish here a little bit, because I think they're going to miss out on the momentum of the show. I think it's going to cool a lot. Like, that's a 4-month break. That is a 4-month break.
Then you have something to enjoy during, Thanksgiving time and all that.
I mean,
I had a question. Do they still sell those cards that you could pay for the year of a service? Remember?
Well, yeah, no, a lot of the services still have like an annual plan you can sign up for that where you save, I think, like 2 months worth. You actually save money if you sign up for the full year. But I think this is, now, I don't really personally care because I don't watch this show.
Right.
But I mean, I think for some people who do watch it,
it's everything to them.
It might be frustrating for them. Like, I don't know what they're going, but there always is business, as Jeff said. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? First of all, the first teaser dropped, not a lot in it, which is understandable because it's still a little ways off. But I mean, the whole idea that they're breaking it into 3 parts, which is something that I approve of. I think that's a good idea, but so far apart from each other. Do you like the idea? Do you not like the idea? Do you think it'll work out? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. That down. Let's move on to this, shall we? I kind of love it when like smaller character actors in the business start to get the recognition they deserve and start to kind of become a household name, or at least start to become a household name in a way. And you can say to yourself, I remember I liked that guy before anybody knew who they were. Very hipster thing to say, but nonetheless. One of those guys for me is Paul Walter Hauser, who I think has just been incredible. The part where he really blew up for me was his role in I, Tonya. him playing that dude. Yes, I did work for the Secret Service. It's Margot Robbie's movie for sure, and Sebastian Stan is great in it too. But the parts that delighted me the most watching this movie was Hauser. And then, of course, he won an Emmy for Blackbird. And now he just signed a couple of big things because he is, number one, going to be Chris Farley in a Chris Farley biopic that Josh Gad is going to direct. And then number two, a movie that I can't even explain why I'm as excited for it as I am. But Naked Gun coming back with Liam Neeson, who I think is entering into a new phase of his career that I think he's going to be even better at, which is comedy, than he was with his action stuff. Anyway, the folks over at the Hollywood Reporter writing this. Paul Walter Hauser is ready to fight crime alongside Liam Neeson in the reboot of Naked Gun. Hauser is set to play Captain Ed in director Akiva Schaffer's untitled new Naked Gun film that Paramount Pictures plans to release on July 18th of 2025. George Kennedy previously played the role. Now,
I love George Kennedy.
He was so good in those movies. He was so good.
Yeah.
It goes on to write, Hauser joins the cast that includes Liam Neeson, Pamela Anderson. While the plot details are under wraps, the Hollywood Reporter previously reported that Neeson will play bumbling detective Frank Drebin. And of course, we know that. Now, earlier this week, THR reported that New Line Cinema landed the forthcoming Chris Farley biopic from director Josh Gad that stars Hauser as the late Saturday Night Live standout. Hauser's other prominent credits include Apple TV series Blackbird, for which he won an Emmy, I, Tonya, Black Klansman. He was also amazing in Black Klansman. And of course, he was great in Richard Jewell, Cruella. Just very quietly gone on to amass a really impressive resume for himself. And I just think the guy is fantastic. By the way, we were just talking about Cobra Kai. He was in Cobra Kai.
He was.
He just small part for a little bit, but he popped up there in Cobra Kai as well.
For a couple seasons, maybe 3.
So I love the guy, and I couldn't be happier for him that he's kind of breaking out this way. Anyway, Jeff, which of the two is the more significant to you? The Chris Farley biopic, joining Liam Neeson in Naked Gun? Which one of these will be the bigger films, and what do you think of the trajectory he's on right now?
I mean, Paul was my up and comer of the month. I am one of those hipsters who will say, "Oh, I saw it first." I've been a huge fan of Paul since I, Tonya. He blew me away, and it's been incredible to watch his rise in the industry and to see the directors who want to work with this guy, who doesn't, maybe fit the conventional like leading man looks. I thought he was great in Richard Jewell too. The Chris Farley thing I think is a huge deal. That could be an awards contender. I don't know if I necessarily see it though. I mean, as much as I believe in Paul and think he's a great actor, I don't know that he'd be like top of mind for Chris Farley. I actually think that the George Kennedy role in the Naked Gun reboot, like he's going to come in and absolutely crush that. I think that I really like that. The Liam Neeson and Pam Anderson, like the way that project is coming together, I think it's off to a nice start. But with Chris Farley, I'm just nervous, right? With Josh Gad directing, it's his first time. Farley is just such a unique, one-of-a-kind guy. Yep. It's kind of a no-win assignment, but I also am hard-pressed to, like, name someone better,
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up.
Uh-oh.
Because that's the exact thought that came to my head.
Okay.
Like, I looked at him, and I thought, do I see Chris Farley? And I thought to myself, not really.
Yeah.
But then I asked myself, well, who can I see playing Chris Farley? I got nothing.
Jack Black.
Jack
too old.
Jack Black's too old.
Too old.
But I literally, there was only one Chris Farley. And I don't know that let's put it this way. I agree with you that he's going to be able to step into this role and he's going to get us to buy in. He's going to convince us. But until the movie happens,
Right.
It's a very, very hard sell in my own head just because I can't see it yet. I think he's going to have to show it to us before we can see it.
He could get so much from doing well in this movie. Awards. Just like his name's out there afterwards.
He's already an Emmy winner, right?
Right.
But you're right. I think, Jeff, you're completely right. I think this is going to be an Oscar season kind of thing. With the big asterisk that you got a new director in Josh Gad. in there, and maybe Josh Gad will do great, maybe he won't do great, but
I mean, supposedly the tone of the film is that it's very celebratory. It's not really like reveling in Chris Farley's downfall or what happened to him. I think it's really going to try to lift him up and celebrate his memory. Obviously, I'm curious who's going to play David Spade and who they're going to surround Paul with in this movie. I think it's fair to be skeptical, but yeah, I mean, well, I guess we'll see. But New Line paid a pretty penny for the package.
Now, here's the question I'm going to have, though. You talk about casting David Spade. Yeah, you got to get somebody in there to play David Spade. You can't have Chris Farley without David Spade. But I want to know who they're going to cast to play Patrick Swayze. Because
I was thinking that yesterday.
Any movie about Chris Farley and a celebration of his life has got to include the Chippendales sketch of Saturday Night Live. You got to have that. So who's going to play Patrick Swayze in that?
Got to be Hemsworth, right?
Yeah.
Or could it be Jake Gyllenhaal?
I was thinking, I was kind of thinking Gyllenhaal.
Maybe.
He just played a Patrick Swayze role in Roadhouse. Maybe he can do it again. He's got the body for it right now.
As far as the other contenders, though, I mean, the only, because I've talked to some comedy, I play basketball with a bunch of comedians, and we talked about the Hauser's casting as Farley. A lot of people thought Tim Dillon could do a good job, but I'm not really familiar with his work. I know he has a big podcast as well.
I mean, yeah, that could work out well too. Anyway, guys, question is for you. Paul Walter Hauser is doing exactly what he deserves to be doing. He is ascending. And I think he's going to be great in Naked Gun with Liam Neeson. I think he's going to play great off him. And I can't imagine anybody playing Chris Farley. But if there's anybody out there who's got the ability to really pull it off, I think it's going to be him. Anyway, guys, whatever you guys think about all this, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? For obvious reasons, when most of us think about the Dark Knight trilogy, we will instantly, and again, I say this is understandable, we will instantly go to thinking about the guy behind it, Christopher Nolan. That being said, we will often forget that there was another Nolan behind it as well. His brother, Jonathan Nolan, who co-wrote all three Dark Knight scripts, and by the way, has had an exemplary career since he did Westworld, which I personally wasn't really super huge on Westworld, but it was a real big swing and a lot of people loved it. And of course, he just recently did Fallout, which had a lot of people excited, as well as other things as well. Well, anyway, recently he was being interviewed and kind of asked about going back to the world of Batman. And whereas I kind of expected he would say something like, that was a great time of my life. I wouldn't change a thing, but we're moving on to new horizons, whatever. But that's not what he said at all. He said, hell yeah, I would go back and do this. This comes from the folks over at Total Film who wrote this. It may have been over a decade since The Dark Knight Rises concluded, Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, but screenwriter Jonathan Nolan would jump at the chance to return to Gotham City. Wouldn't that be a dream? He said when asked whether there'd been any talk of reviving the franchise. That period of my life, it was about 10 years of my life when I got the call to go to work on Batman Begins in 2003, to putting The Dark Knight Rises in 2012, and it was epic, he continued. The chance to work with Christian, Heath, Morgan Freeman, Michael Caine, the extraordinary cast in those films, and on an American icon. So, if I had the chance to go back and work on that again, absolutely. All right. For many reasons, this clearly piqued up the bat ears on a lot of fans out there. Look, I'm not one of them, but to many, many, many people out there, the Christopher and Jonathan Nolan, Christian Bale Batman franchise, for a lot of people, is the definitive Batman. That's to them, that is, and for a lot of people, the definitive comic book movies. There are a bunch of people out there that think The Dark Knight is the best comic book movie ever made. Yeah. I'm not one of them, but it's up there for me, way up there. The franchise is fantastic. And we're heading into a era right now where we've got a brand new head of DC. They're starting out again fresh. They got a lot of options, a lot of opportunities. But they're going to have a Batman in this new DC universe. Christian Bale's Batman does not fit that. They've already got a secondary Batman franchise running with Matt Reeves's and Robert Pattinson's Batman. So I don't know that you're going to have the DC Batman, the Elseworlds Batman, and another Elseworlds Batman. So look, for me personally, I drool at the idea of a Jonathan Nolan returning to write something for The Dark Knight. I just don't see where it goes.
Yeah,
you know, it's like you're in a furniture store and you see this great couch, but you've already got a couch in your living room, and you say, "I want this couch," but I've got nowhere to put it.
You
That's
stack
what it
them.
feels like.
You gotta
Just
stack
them.
Yeah.
I just like that I feel like he has more stories to tell. He wants to tell more stories. He has something up his sleeve. Like, I just love the thought that he wants to add, or is it that he wants to add to the Dark Knight or do his own Dark Knight? Do we get the sense of what he's talking about?
Well, he never said, I mean, that's a good question.
to it.
He never said he wants to, I want to fill my brother's shoes. And I just think he's got more stories he'd like to tell.
Yeah, and I want to know about these stories because
I'm going to go on a limb here. If they announce tomorrow, and they're clearly not, I'm just saying, if they announce tomorrow that even if Christopher didn't come back, although I'm sure that would be part of the deal with Jonathan, let's say DC was working with Jonathan Nolan, and they were bringing back Christian Bale, and they were going to pick up on Dark Knight Part 4. If they announce that tomorrow, does anybody doubt the internet would break? Like, is there any doubt that is not the number one story on every entertainment outlet, on even on the non-entertainment outlet? DC announces Christian Bale returning to play Batman, and they're going to do a Batman The Dark Knight 4. Is there anybody out there that isn't celebrating that? I don't think they're going to do it, but there's that. And anyway, Jeff, this is a Jonathan Nolan coming out and saying this, like, not just, oh yeah, but he's saying that would be a dream. I would jump at the chance to go back and do that. Is he right to feel that way? Would there be excitement amongst fans? Is there any actual practical possibility they could do this? How do you see it?
I don't think that there's any real possibility of this happening. I think we'd all love it. Like, he did a great job with that. But, you know, what are we talking about when we talk about that trilogy? We're talking about the movies that were made by his brother. And so it's like, I don't think Jonathan Nolan wants to come back and write a Batman movie for Andy Muschietti or for Ruben Fleischer or for whoever, right? It's like, it's all in the execution. So he had a great experience writing those Batman movies because, well, an incredible filmmaker made them, and that incredible filmmaker also serves as a talent magnet. So who's to say if you write a Batman movie and then pass it off to some kind of like studio hack director that you even get as talented a cast as that Dark Knight trilogy had. I think it was, you know, just like a perfect set of circumstances. I think it would be really tough to recreate those circumstances in that creative environment again. I don't anticipate the Nolans, either one of them, returning, but of course it would be a dream come true. Yes.
Now, I've seen, understandably, I've seen a couple of people in the live chat saying something like Christian Bale would never come back for that. And
he would if Chris asked.
Okay, well, yes, he said that publicly, that if Chris Nolan asked him to come back, he would. But I also want everybody to remember this, that at the premiere of The Dark Knight Rises, Christian Bale was straight up asked, would you do more comic book movies after this? To which he definitively said no.
Right.
No, I've got other things to do now. I'm not going to do comic book movies anymore. It's that. Well, guess what? We had a little movie called Thor: Love and Thunder.
Oh.
Now, granted, he wasn't in as much as that as he should have been in.
He was the best part of it.
He was the best part of it, maybe. But what he said no before, guess what? Years go by, perspectives change, circumstances change, tastes change, things you're interested in, things you might want to try out again. Remember, Sylvester Stallone said he was done with Rambo. That was a couple of Rambo films ago.
He's cutting up hearts still.
Vin Diesel said he was done with Fast and the Furious. We've had 8 more with him since then.
We're done. Okay. But he's not.
Let's say this James Gunn DC just completely falls apart. There is a chance for Dark Knight 4.
Oh, look. Okay, first of all, You can't just drop that grenade and then casually move on. If James Gunn's DC falls apart.
I'm just saying, there's always possible.
If James Gunn's DC falls apart, that is cataclysmic for Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
That's not just some little thing you then later brush under the rug. But I think you're right. But even then, there's a ticking clock, right? Like if James Gunn's, they're going to give James Gunn, starting in 2025, they're going to give James Gunn and Peter Safran minimum, as they should, 3 years. Minimum 3 years. To see if they can get that thing going. Okay, so let's say it all falls apart. Do I think then they go to the houses of both Christopher Nolan and Jonathan Nolan and Christian Bale with dump trucks filled with stolen Spanish bullion gold and say, whatever you guys want? Yeah, they do that.
With the older Dark Knight story.
With an older, you start getting into the Dark Knight Returns kind of age.
Yeah,
and I would love that.
Awesome.
But then you gotta recast Joker, and in that world, that's tough.
Well, I mean, obviously you can't do Joker. Well, I guess no, Joker never technically died in the Dark Knight universe. So yeah, you'd have to recast, or you do something completely different. But I think to Jeff's point, it would probably take something like that, because I think certainly as long as Matt Reeves' Batman is going, which was financially successful, loved by the audience, loved by the critics, and unless James Gunn's DC completely collapses, that's the only way I see this actually happening. Otherwise, I agree with Jeff. I just don't think it's something that could. But oh, the thought of it is very delicious.
It's making my mouth water.
Yeah. The thought of it is very delicious. So anyway, guys, question is for you.
Time for a lunch break.
What do you think about this? Jonathan Nolan, Christopher Nolan's brother, who co-wrote all the Dark Knight films and just finished doing Fallout, is saying it would be not just I would do it, it would be a dream, and I would jump at the chance to go back and do that again. Do you like that idea? Do you think there's any realistic possibility it could happen? Do you think other people would be excited about it? Maybe yes, maybe no. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With all that down, we're now going to get into the most important part of our show, which is taking your questions. But before we do, we're going to take another quick moment here and thank another sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Harry's. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Harry's. You know, guys, in order to start the John Campea Show, I had to leave my high-paying corporate job in order to set myself up to be happier and enjoy more personal success. Because sometimes to get what you want, you have to challenge the status quo and blaze your own trail. And that's exactly what the folks at Harry's did. You see, at Harry's, they saw customers getting ripped off by questionable products in the shaving industry and decided to do something better. Harry's decided to pave their own road by making beautifully designed razors for a fraction of the price of the other big brands. Exceptional products, honest prices. That's Harry's. I have fallen in love with Harry's, from their foaming shaving gel that feels just luxurious on the skin to their incredible razor that feels just as good in the hand as it does going over your skin. They've got rich, lathering, skin-softening body wash in scents like redwood, wildlands, and stone. You see, Harry's provides German-engineered blades made in their own factory that stay sharp longer. You can get a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, foaming shave gel, and a travel cover for just $3 at harrys.com/Campea. Don't settle for the status quo. Blaze your own trail with Harry's. Get started with a $13 trial set for just $3 at harrys.com/Campea. That's harrys.com/Campea for a $3 trial set. And thank you to our friends at Harry's for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. By the way, breaking news, we're not going to go into it much right here. We're going to save it for tomorrow. But speaking of Paul Walter Hauser, Jeff just mentioned he's just been cast in Fantastic Four, everybody.
Yeah.
It's not a joke. He's been cast in Fantastic Four.
Give him the Infinity Gauntlet because he's collecting all these stones,
He's
right?
collecting all the franchise, all the movies right now. Now, who he's going to be, we don't know. Obviously, he's not going to be one of the members of the Fantastic Four. I don't think he's going to be Doctor Doom. I really doubt it's Doctor Doom.
I have to let him marinate a little bit and think about it, huh?
Yeah, whether it's Mole Man or Galactus or whoever else, I don't know. But again, we'll talk more about this on the show tomorrow. This just dropped that this is his year already. Chris Farley, Naked Gun, Fantastic Four, good for him. Anyway, Let's get on to your live questions here, shall we? Jonathan, what do we got up first?
Dildar, the Glorious.
The Glorious.
Says, anyone got Bastion X-Men storylines to recommend? I'm hating him in the best way possible. He's such a douchebag, and I love it.
I gotta tell you, I don't know who they got to do his voice, but the voice of Bastion in X-Men 97 is awesome. I love it.
I gotta get back on that.
Yeah, no, honestly, in all the runs that I've read of X-Men, I never really, well, no, that's not completely true, but I mean, I didn't really read a lot that had Bastion in it. So I don't have any recommend. This is one where having Rob here would be really beneficial, but I haven't, but I love this character in the thing there. I think it's great. All right. What's next?
All right. Chubbs GPT says, holding off watching X-Men till episode 10. We'll watch the last 3 episodes like a movie. So far, I've been able to dodge spoilers online. Wish me luck.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. It's going to be very difficult, but it's great. Everybody's saying it's Theo James who does the voice, who was, by the way, Theo James, that was him in the recent The Gentleman on Netflix, right?
Yeah.
He was really good. Like he showed me something that I didn't think he was capable of, to be honest with you, but he's doing a really good job of the voice in there. You know, X-Men 97 is a really interesting thing because I think if this was a live action show, I think a lot of people, and it was being done exactly the same way, I think a lot of people would consider it a mess because it's so annotated, right? They literally did the Goblin Queen storyline in 20 minutes. And they do all these things in very, very small, short little things. But as an animated series, and just they're telling the story in a very matter of fact, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens. It's working.
I like it that way.
It's really working for an animated series. And I'll tell you what, everybody knows my all-time favorite comic book character, not MCU character, not movie character, but comic book character is Magneto. And to get the ending of that last episode of just Magneto just saying enough and boom, blast the world back to the Dark Ages. It's like, yeah, Magneto's done taking your shit. It's so good. So good. All right. Anyway, sorry about that. What's next?
Matan Valensky says, if your blade scoop from yesterday is true, I wonder what they did to make Reynolds and Snipes to be in the same room after Trinity.
Okay, a couple things. First of all, the blade scoop is not my scoop. I've just known about it for months. And the word started getting out there yesterday. That's why I said, okay, here's the thing. Yeah, we did find out. I mean, actually, Rob and I have been talking about it for a long time. I first heard about Wesley Snipes being in it about 4 months ago. And then about a little over 2 months ago, I heard it from another inside person. So that was that. But Ryan Reynolds never spoke to me directly to say, don't talk about Deadpool stuff, but he did put out a public statement a while ago saying, hey guys, please don't run with things you're hearing. We want to save a lot of it. So I just sat on it. We never said anything, but the word got out about it. So, but it is not my scoop. Other people started talking about it first, but I can tell you this, the rumors going around that Wesley Snipes will be included in the pickup shooting they're doing right now. Nah, this is something we knew about 3-4 months ago. So his stuff's probably already shot. Other than that, what was the other thing they were asking?
Then how do you get Reynolds in?
Yeah. No, the Wesley Snipes never had a problem with Ryan Reynolds. His problem was always with David Goyer. And I'm not saying he was right, but it was David Goyer and him who, I think the way the story goes, Jeff, I think Wesley Snipes actually physically attacked David Goyer.
It sounds within the realm of possibility.
On set. Wow. I think he literally went at David Goyer's throat on the set. David Goyer, who of course was directing that. I don't know. Tensions run high. Everybody's really passionate about it. But from what I understand, Wesley Snipes and Ryan Reynolds never had an issue with each other. I mean, Wesley Snipes had issues with where the movie was going, Blade Trinity, but I don't think him and Ryan Reynolds ever had a personal problem. So that was, and actually about a year ago, Ryan Reynolds was doing an interview and they brought up Blade Trinity, and he said, you know what? This was an interesting thing. He said, I don't think I've ever met Wesley Snipes. And they said, what are you talking about? And he says, well, Wesley kind of did Blade method.
Yep.
And he exactly. And he stayed in character as Blade the whole time on set.
Heck yeah.
He said, so I don't know that I've ever met Wesley Snipes, but I'll tell you what, I really respect him as an actor. I think he's great, blah, 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 blah. So I don't know that the two of them ever had an issue. At least, not that I've heard of, Jeff. Have you ever heard differently?
No, I haven't heard anything like that.
Why are you smiling, Jeff? Why are you smiling so
Listen,
much?
I was there at the Blade Trinity junket. I was there when the shit hit the fan in Grenada.
Man, that would have been a fun junket to be at. All right, what's next?
Juliana Goodwin says, per yesterday's Scooby-Doo dream casting, I think Ariana Greenblatt would be a good Velma. Honestly, she could be a Daphne too.
She could be a Daphne too. You know, you're not wrong about that. So, listen, I had a lot of people write me saying, oh, they love some of my picks, they hate some of my... I just was throwing out names there of people that I could see playing that role.
Yeah.
I was surprised how many people wrote in like the Jack Black idea. You weren't here, but we were doing, okay, let's do the new live action Scooby-Doo that Netflix is doing. So let's throw out 5 potential names for each of the live action characters. And I said, now with Shaggy, we threw out a few names. What's the one everybody liked? Oh yeah, Pete Davidson. Everyone liked the Pete Davidson name.
Yeah, see?
But I also said, now, if
It
you
writes
want
itself.
to reimagine, I said, this one's way out in left field, but I said, if you want to reimagine Shaggy as not one of the college classmates of the Mystery Gang, but rather maybe the older guy who still lives in one of the frat houses and is the weed dealer for everybody on campus, I said, maybe a Jack Black as a Shaggy, but that would be like a totally reimagining of the character, I suppose. But
That would be fun, though. I like that. I mean, I always liked O'Banion in Dazed and Confused, the guy
Oh
who hung around a little too long.
I love that. All right, what's next?
Spacey Casey says, hello all. I recently told a friend I've never seen E.T. and ended up getting a huge lecture. Does the crew have any big movie blind spots like this? Thanks.
You know, back in my movie blog days,
So many.
I had a few, but you know, once back in the movie blog days, like 20 years ago, that I started doing it kind of regularly. It's like I very quickly started to making sure I went out and got all those movie blind spots that I had never seen before. And at this point, I don't think there's any big key, you know, signpost movie that's come out that I haven't seen. I think I'm all caught up. Jeff, you got any that you can think of off the top of your head?
There's 2, actually. Yeah, they were big, like, awards movies, too. I've never seen Shakespeare in Love, so I'm not one of those people who gets all upset about
But that's not
winning.
exactly one of the all-time
Right.
classics.
Well, I know, but like, and Dances with Wolves I've never seen.
Really?
Yeah, I would like to see that.
You know what? Both of those will take some crap today. It
Yeah.
almost became in fashion to crap a little bit on Shakespeare in Love and Dances with Wolves. I don't care what anybody says. Dances with Wolves is
Who did
insanely good. And
did-
I think Shakespeare in Love was fantastic.
Yeah, I want
who
to see
did
that.
Shakespeare compete with at the Oscars? Wasn't that part of like
Saving Private Ryan.
right?
Saving Private Ryan.
Right.
And so I think the reason people started shitting on Shakespeare in Love is just because they were mad that Saving Private Ryan didn't win.
Yeah.
But I thought listen, Shakespeare in Love was a fabulous movie. I loved it.
And I'm sure I have, blind spots that go back to the 30s and 40s and 50s, like we all do, you know?
But the true big, like, pantheon of the greats, you've probably seen most of them, if not all of them. It's hard to imagine this.
I haven't seen like Tropic Thunder or like Mad Max Fury.
It's so funny that the one Ray went to was Tropic
well, because
Thunder.
that's the one where whenever it comes up. 'cause
Oh,
people
you
ask me.
would love Tropic Thunder.
I know I would. I just haven't.
We got to sit down and watch it this week, I think. All right, what's next?
Matt Boyle says Toby Kebbell performance as Cobra is phenomenal.
Yes, it was.
I want to see him do more motion capture. Can't wait for Kingdom to come out.
Yeah, and I think there were 2 reasons he didn't get more credit for that. Number one is because I think a lot of people didn't realize that was him doing the motion capture for Cobra. But the other thing was he was also in a very, very young profession, acting alongside the greatest motion capture artist of all time, who is still doing Caesar with Andy Serkis. And I think that's why he didn't get more credit. But you're right. His motion capture performance in that as Cobra was phenomenal.
I
It was
had no
good.
idea.
You never saw it?
No, I had no idea.
Oh,
He did
that
the
was him doing
mocap
it?
for it. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
he
the
was.
first
Yeah,
time
he
I-
was Cobra. He was so good in that. All right, what's next?
All right, Mr. I says, John, you failed us yesterday with your cast choices for Velma. You left out the perfect casting, good Canadian kid Iman Vellani. LOL, keep up the great show.
I
thought of her too.
adore.
You'd have
Iman
to see a
Vellani.
different side of her acting,
Okay.
though, to see her as Velma.
Here's the thing. This is why I left her off. Because I adore her. I think she is beyond fantastic in Ms. Marvel. It's my second favorite Disney Plus TV series. Thought she was great in it, and I think she is a pure delight. But I think she's too young.
Yeah.
I think she's too young.
That's it.
Especially with all the other castings we were all talking about. Like, I'm seeing it at more college age, and she still looks high school freshman to me. So that's why I didn't go with Iman. But other than that, I would have put her on there. But I do think she's great. All right, what's next?
All right, Luke says, or questions, now that you're back in the garage studio, was there any equipment that couldn't fit?
You have no
Yes.
idea.
Yeah.
You have no idea how much stuff we either just A, gave away, or B, I'm talking some really great, expensive equipment that we couldn't give away fast enough, and we ended up just having junkers come and haul away as garbage.
I mean, we're dealing with like, what, 1/5 the size of what we had before?
Yeah, I mean, we are now in like a 400 square foot room,
And
which
we're
is
in
which is
over
great.
2,000.
We were in like a 2,000 square foot studio that we spent 2 years filling with stuff. I mean, we seriously had so much, like we had 43-inch monitors that we threw out.
We did?
We had a lot of 32-inch monitors that we threw out. We just had a lot of gear that we
Yeah,
ended
we
up
did.
having to, again, a lot of stuff gave away, but we couldn't give it away fast enough. And a lot of really cool stuff we had to just toss out, especially a lot of furniture.
Yeah.
Furniture had to go too. All right, what's next?
Rat from State Farm says, hi all, I think I cooked with this casting Fred, Will Poulter, Daphne, Sadie Sink, Velma, Melissa Barrera, Shaggy, Pete Davidson, and Scooby, Jack Black.
I'm fine with all your picks except Melissa Barrera as Velma.
Velma.
No way.
Yeah, I don't see that either.
If she's anything, she's a Daphne.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
There's no way you could hide that.
No,
beauty.
no. You can't even pretend it's the
Yeah.
ugly pretty girl. No, there's no way.
Can't even
She's.
do the hair thing.
But I like all the other ones. I like all your other.
I
picks.
like when people are like, Sydney Sweeney as Velma. I'm like, come on.
It's like, yeah.
Okay.
What's
Zoinks.
Steinfeld's line? Chesty LaRue. That's right. Yeah,
my
Chesty LaRue
God.
is Velma. I don't think so. All right, what's next?
Mr. I. Hey, John and crew, did you see that Ryan Gosling showed up on the red carpet for Fall Guy as with Mikey Day, both dressed as Beavis and Butthead? Are they pushing for a live action adaptation?
Oh my God.
No,
please.
I think they just did it for fun.
Yeah, they did it
Please.
for fun.
They
was
did
in
it
the
for fun.
zeitgeist, and they did it.
And it was so glorious. Did you see that, Jeff?
Oh, I saw it and I could smell it from where I was. I mean, it reeked of desperation. It is all about that movie not tracking well. I mean, it's tracking to open at like 30 to 35 million this weekend.
Ooh.
Costs like 130, 140 million. So they're like, oh, did people like Ryan, as Beavis on SNL? Let's get him out there on the red carpet again.
I thought it was great because it gave joy to a lot of people.
I love Beavis and Butthead.
But I really thought he should have showed up as Ken and like stayed in character as Ken, talking about his own movie he wanted to capitalize on something. I remember I had a conversation with a buddy of mine who's in the industry, Jeff, about a month ago, just before CinemaCon. And they were having this argument with me thinking I was insane, not believing that Fall Guy would make $1 billion. And I'm like, listen, I think the movie looks really good. And then we saw it at CinemaCon, and I quite enjoy. I think the movie's too long, but I really enjoyed it. I had a really good fun time with it. But I mean, there's no way this thing is making $1 billion. He said, "All right, 800 million." I'm like, no. I mean, I think if this movie makes $500 million at the box office, they gotta
Yeah.
pop bottles.
Yeah, it's not.
But
It's,
it's
not going to
good.
get close to that either.
Yeah, everyone go out and see it. Come on.
Everybody
It's-
should go out and see it. It's
yeah.
really good. I'm gonna say it's gonna make 40 million opening weekend, but yeah, it's not gonna be that huge at all. All right, what's next?
Rat from State Farm is back and says, shout out Giovanni for the Pete Davidson Shaggy idea.
Yeah, and look, I'm not going to pretend like I'm sure I'm not the only one out there that thought it. Like I'm sure a lot of people when they thought of Shaggy think of Pete Davidson.
tall.
But yeah, I like that pick. I did. I always love when you can tell when somebody's late to the stream. Somebody said, "Oh, like Jose Miaz writes, holy shit, Paul Walter Hauser has been cast in Fantastic Four." If only we didn't just say that 15 minutes ago. But yeah, you can always tell when somebody's new. I'm just giving you a hard time, Jose. All right, what's next?
CM Waters, film enthusiast, says, even not having read the X-Men comics, I could definitely see the pacing issues with 97. But the episodes that are great are still very captivating.
Yeah, listen, again, they've adapted a style. It's a very annotated style. It's very much, let's take 30 minutes of storytelling and tell that 30 minutes of storytelling in 2 minutes. And let's do that. And because, I mean, listen, this show is racing. It's like, then this happens, this happens, this. But as a collective and as a style choice for the show itself, it's working. It has its own flow.
And I'm glad that they did it this way. When I was a kid and I would catch it on Saturday, the only episodes I would always change X-Men was when they had the morph episodes. Because that one was the
that big storyline.
The 3-parter. I hate those episodes.
Really?
I hate those episodes because
they're maybe the best
You
episodes
hate them
of that
from, like,
show.
when you were
I
a kid
wanted
in
a
the
beginning and
90s.
end, and every time it said to be continued, whatever, and they never played the next
To be
one.
continued.
I hate those episodes. Keep them.
You don't have, but that's network. Like you're talking about network versus you can stream it now. and
Because
watch
the
it
next
all.
week they would never play the next episode. It would always
Well,
be
they
some
do
random
now.
episode. It would,
Oh,
you know what I
Disney
mean? That's
Plus.
why I
Okay.
hated them.
Race triggered. It's
Race
fine. They
triggered.
actually need to do more story arcs.
All right, what's next?
Jonathan Schultz with the $20 super chat.
Thank you, Jonathan.
When Marvel finally does an X-Men team-up movie, do you think they'll do Cyclops justice this time around? Also, possibly that they don't include the new Wolverine right away on our first team-up movie? Thanks, bring on the filthy.
Okay, so to both those questions. First, let's start with the Cyclops one. They know that universally everybody believes that the X-Men movies did Cyclops dirty. Even those of us who love the X-Men movies say the one thing they really dropped the ball on consistently was how they handled the Cyclops character. Especially when you had an actor like James Marsden, who could have absolutely killed it in that role. And I think the studio's aware of that. So yes, I think Kevin Feige feels that way as well. So I think they will give, they're not going to make X-Men all about Cyclops, but they're going to do him justice. All right. I think you got to be a special kind of crazy if you don't think they're going to lean into Wolverine as hard as they can, as fast as they can. He is simply the most popular of all the X-Men characters in the world. There is no way the first X-Men movie that actually has the words X-Men in it does not have a Wolverine. That'd be like the Beatles going on tour and saying, oh, but there's no Paul McCartney. What? No, this is ridiculous. That depends on who you think is the greatest Beatle.
Well,
but,
no, there's also no John Lennon, too. I didn't want to, like, lately.
yeah, so, I mean, so it all depends. There's just simply... What's another good example like of an IP or a group or whatever that, oh, but just take, you know what? Make a Transformers movie without Optimus Prime.
Oh, yeah.
John, there's Bumblebee. No, but that was a Bumblebee movie. Make a Transformers movie without Optimus Prime. Go. There's just no way they do an X-Men movie without Wolverine. I just don't see it happening at all. Now, Tremble Dust is saying it's not all about Wolverine. Nobody's saying it is. Nobody's saying you got to make it all about Wolverine.
Yeah.
But you bet your ass Wolverine needs to be a part of it. You're a studio executive and you make an X-Men movie without the world's most and the all-time most popular X-Men, you're not going to be a movie executive there much longer. You're going to be out of a job.
I can see them maybe holding off his appearance, maybe halfway through the movie, and then he comes in, because I think there was a X-Men anime. I think it was Wolverine and the X-Men, which is funny, where he came in like a little bit in the episode. I don't know, but I agree with you.
Then there's probably a good reason I've never heard of it.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have Wolverine in it, so nobody cared. Anyway, all right, what's next?
Bannon says, love the show. Been watching since AMC days.
Thank you, man.
Ray, you got a shout out from Raphael Sihaman for the poster and toys on a recent video of his.
Who's that?
Yeah, so you know that Iron Man, Raphael Seha. He's a toy collector in this area, and I just been watching him, and then so I met him on the weekend, and I gave him that Iron Man.
So he has a YouTube channel?
And the posters, yeah. So I swear, this guy
is a Big Pop Iron Man, you mean?
Yeah,
Or
the
what?
Big Pop.
Yeah.
Because this guy saves me so much money because he goes through all the stores that I feel like going to, but I'm too lazy and too fat to like actually want to go myself. So like he saves me a lot of time. Shout out to him. So yeah, I gave him that Iron Man we had.
All right, what's next?
Raymond says, if Cobra Kai season 6 third part is in 25 and Karate Kid will open in May of 25, do you think they will cross over, make Miguel Blue Beetle as well? Well, that's a separate issue, but
By the way, I love Sholo as Miguel or Jaime, I should say, in Blue Beetle. I really do, but I think it would be a mistake to carry him on at this point, even though I thought he did a great job. That's besides the point. Listen, all I know is that the initial word was when they first announced they were doing this new Karate Kid movie was that it was not crossing over with Cobra Kai, which is wise because then the only people who are going to go see the movie are the people who are watching Cobra Kai. But I mean, I don't know how you do it otherwise. Jeff, have you heard anything about this? Like, is this going to be a continuation of the series? I thought initially they hinted that it wasn't, but have you
Well,
heard
I
anything?
mean, Machio is on Cobra Kai, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
And
I
he's
mean,
in the new movie.
yeah. So I think it's a continuation in that sense. I mean, I don't think it's going to have all the other characters. This is a new story with what is it, Ben Wang and like Josh Jackson. I mean, yeah, it's a totally different Karate Kid at its center. But I think that by having the Machio connection, it provides an anchor to Cobra Kai.
All right. What's next?
all right. Kyle says, my thoughts for the live action Scooby-Doo actors. Fred, Docker Montgomery, I guess he was
That's not
from-
bad act.
Yeah,
That's not a bad pick.
that's actually a good pick. Daphne would be Catherine Newton. Velma,
I've never known how to pronounce her name either.
Sochi.
Sochi.
Okay, Gomez, and Shaggy would be Harris Dickinson.
I'll tell you what, I thought about putting Sochi Gomez on the list of
Sochi
Velma.
Gomez.
Now, for those of you who don't know who she is, she was America Ferrera in Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness.
Oh, okay.
Was that her last
America
name?
Chavez.
Chavez. Sorry, America Ferrera is
It's
an
a
actress
Barbie.
friend of mine.
It's Barbie.
So, America Chavez, and I thought she was wonderful in that. The only reason I didn't put her on,
She's young.
young, the main thing for me, though, was that she hasn't done anything since Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness. And I've only ever really seen her in the one role. And I like to see more of a performer before I want to start fan casting them and other things. So that's the only reason I left her off. But I don't mind your choice. I don't mind your pick at all. All right, what's next?
Dr. Stinky. I finally watched most of Peaky Blinders, missed some episodes, but that final episode is one of the best episodes of TV of all time. Anyway, bring on the filthy.
Another show that a lot of people love that just didn't really work for me. So I kind of bailed on it in season 2. And it's weird because, again, I love a lot of people involved with the show. I know so many people that love the show, but yeah, it's just one that just wasn't clicking for me. So I kind of got off the boat with it.
Love the costumes on there though.
The costume, the
suits.
look of the era and everything is fantastic. All right, what's next?
Jared Oberfeld says, who moves, Sonic or Mufasa? They are both targeting 90s kids, thus running a risk of cannibalizing each other.
Are they actually scheduled to open on the
If they
same
are,
day?
Sonic moves.
Can you look it up, Ray? Okay, so if they are, I know they're scheduled to open the same month. I didn't know if they were opening on the same day or not.
Mufasa is December 20.
Okay.
Sonic 3,
Is
It's also in the month of December, I think.
December 20.
So it's the same day.
Oh, but 20,
Okay.
24, and then let
So
me just make sure.
I would say this. That week is one of those weeks that you can have massive films
Yeah.
opening on the same day. It is the biggest money-making week in the Hollywood calendar, right? There is a lot of business to go around that week, so that's okay. But if one of them had to move, here's the reality. Ray, pull this up for me. How much money did Sonic 2 make at the box office?
okay, let me get that for you.
Because I'll start off by telling you how much The Last Lion King movie made at the box office. Over $1 billion.
Yeah. So this one
Highest grossing animated
405.
film of all time. Sonic 2 made 405. Mufasa's not worried about Sonic.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm not saying you shouldn't be looking forward to Sonic more than Mufasa. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying one movie made $405 million. The other one made $1 billion. If one of them was going to move, it's going to be Sonic. I don't think either on a December 20th release date. I don't think either one of them have to move, to be honest with you. I think they're fine.
Yeah, they're fine.
But if one of them was going to move, like, I don't know, does anybody disagree? Like, if one of them was going to move, I don't think Disney's moving for Sonic.
No.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, Sonic, if either of them feel like they have to move, Sonic will be the one that moves.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Dallas Designer says, howdy, with the current state of the MCU and OG's gone, what are the chances the next Avengers movie won't crack $1 billion?
Decent.
Yeah.
There's a decent chance the next. Now, look, if I had to put $20 on it, I will put my money on the next Avengers movie making $1 billion. But right now, considering the climate, you know what? Ask me that question again after Deadpool and Wolverine comes out.
Or after we know who the Avengers are.
Well, no, not even that. Just ask me again after Deadpool and Wolverine comes out.
Yeah.
If Deadpool and Wolverine is awesome and gets people re-energized for the MCU again, I might have a different answer. But as of right now, I would say there is a decent chance the next Avenger. We're not talking about how good the next Avengers movie will be. I'm just saying, I think there's a decent chance the next Avengers movie will be a massive hit, but may not make $1 billion. Jeff, you got a thought on that?
I'm going to put it over $1 billion. I know that the pandemic probably took out 20% of business, but I think that Marvel is going to mount a little comeback. I think that Avengers is sort of the keyword that like perks everybody's ears up. And if those movies made $2 billion, I know they've lost a lot of cast members and everything. I think that this new one could gross $1 billion. I bet we see a lot of people coming back too and cameos and stuff.
All right. What's next?
All right, moving on to member questions. First up, Dildar says, and this is ironic, finished Fallout the other day, and it's by far my favorite video game adaptation. Can't wait for season 2, but can we all agree how atrocious the aging of Kyle MacLachlan was? Oh, yeah, well,
I didn't think it was all that bad, to be honest with you. I listen, if you've heard me talk about it, I loved Fallout. Loved it. I don't think it holds a candle to Last of Us. Like, Last of Us is just another level. It's just on another level of good storytelling, character development, all that. It's the superior show to me. But I loved Fallout. And it certainly is, even to me, one of the best comic book adaptations ever. I mean, I don't know if there's another one that I would put above it other than Last of Us.
You mean video game
Yeah, video game adaptations. I don't know if I would put another one above that. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with Fallout.
When your series makes you want to go back for people who've never
To play the game?
played
Yep.
the game and want to play the game, you did it well in some way.
Yeah. All right, what's next?
All right. Espinoza says, yesterday you guys were talking about The Rock being late in movie sets and movies. 4 weeks ago during WrestleMania week, he showed up 2 hours late to WWE World for a Q&A, and fans were pissed. He had a funny excuse, and because they were in Philly, he was watching YouTube videos of Jalen Hurts losing in the playoffs.
Yeah, he was. I saw the video of that.
Oh my God, he said that?
Because he came out on stage, he was hours late for a fan event. And people were booing him. He goes, "Why are you booing The Rock? Because The Rock's a little bit late? I was busy watching Jalen Hurts lose some more." And like, it was actually, it was.
Is that on YouTube?
Yeah. It was masterfully handled by The Rock. It was masterfully handled. It was a great way to handle it.
It's only okay. You can only laugh at it until he's late for something that you planned.
Here's the thing though.
Or he just keeps doing it.
Since we talked about that the other day, I've had more filmmakers I know write to me with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson horror stories.
Oh my God.
As far as his lateness goes. Again, we were talking about this yesterday, Jeff. Still, I had a friend of mine who's very high up on the food chain of the people who made Rampage. And when the story broke, I kind of reached out to them and they said, "Oh yeah." His line was, "Dwayne Johnson fucked us." And apparently like made things a living nightmare. But everybody across the board that I've talked to still says they love him. They say he's the nicest guy. It's just that he is always late, which throws everything off for everybody on a movie. And it's not just 20, 30 minutes late. It's like 2 hours late, 4 hours late, 7 hours late. Sometimes just not showing up. and that's just something. Jeff, you weren't here when we were talking about this, but have you heard any other things connected to that as well?
I mean, again, I didn't speak to the I don't know who Umberto spoke to, but it did pass my smell test. I thought it was a very well reported story. He obviously spent a lot of time on it. And I don't think that, I doubt that Dwayne's the only one who sort of behaves like this. I think that when you're a huge star, you kind of do what you want and everyone else has to adapt. And while that is kind of unfair and shitty, and I bet that The Rock does start to maybe take some accountability and change his ways. There's just no excuse for it. You have to be a professional at the end of the day.
All right, what's next?
CCTV says X-Men 97 keeps getting better and better. And in my opinion, the chances for a Spider-Man animated series revival keep growing and growing. Have you guys seen the most recent 97 episode?
Yeah, and of course there was a quick little Spider-Man cameo, just kind of popped up for a second. Doesn't say anything. Just you just see him there. There's an Omega Red quick pop up cameo as well.
I love Omega Red. They don't do enough Omega Red stuff.
Listen, no. I will say this: if somebody's really enjoying X-Men 97, it has not gotten better and better. Actually, it got worse for a while, and then it started to get better again because I thought the first 2 episodes were fantastic, and then episodes 3 and 4.
I'm on 4.
I thought, oh, so it's not going to be all that great. But then since episode 4, it has just started firing on all cylinders. And I've really started to enjoy it a lot. It's doing a really, really good job.
Can you at least say that it's one of Disney Plus best series that they put out yet right now, or do you have to wait?
No, I mean right now I wouldn't. I want to see how they finish. They still got 2 episodes to go. It's not in the same universe as WandaVision right now. It's stuff like that. But let's see how they do the final 2 episodes, because I'm telling you what, it's like a sports team. It is hitting its stride when it needs to hit its stride.
All right.
Right. It like the episodes 3 and 4 were a little bit of a letdown, but ever since then they have just ramped up. And then like the ending of the last episode, I'll tell you what, the ending of the last episode, if you had told me that was the season finale, I would have been frustrated out of my mind, but would have thought it was an amazing season finale. Like if it ended with Magneto going, enough, and being like, whoa, that would be an excellent place to end the season. But they still got 2 more. If they continue to ramp up, I mean, let's have that discussion then, because they're hitting their stride at the exact right time. All right, we got time for like 2 more. What's next?
All right, Inalo says, I'm glad that movie theaters replay old classics. I was able to see Alien, Jaws, and The Godfather for the first. I love it too. Usually the anniversaries they release them.
I mean, look,
Steel Magnolias.
I'm not going to make light of anything. I'll downplay the horrific consequences of it or anything like that. But in a movie viewing perspective, one of the make lemon out of lemonades that came out of the pandemic was the fact that a lot of movie fans who had a lot of time on their hands started watching some of those classics that they had never seen before. And for months and months and months, we got constant barrages of messages saying, oh my God, I just watched Lord of the Rings for the first time. And a lot of them were, oh my God, I just watched The Godfather for the first time. There is nothing I enjoy more as a movie fan than watching a movie I love with somebody who's never seen it yet. And out of all those, there's no movie I love watching with somebody who's seeing it for the first time than The Godfather. Because guys, there's a look at some point in the latter part of the second act of The Godfather. And I've watched it with somebody who's never seen it and I was watching it for the first time like 4 different times. And somewhere near the end of the second act, I should say, there's a look that hits their faces when they realize every movie I've ever watched has been influenced by this movie. Like there's a point that happens when they suddenly realize how much of all the movies they love were clearly influenced by this movie. It is one of my favorite experiences watching that with somebody. Do you got a movie like that, Jeff, that you love watching with people that they have never seen it before, and for you, it's just like you can't wait to watch it with them?
I recently showed my girlfriend Magnolia. She'd never seen Magnolia, and just like all the daring stuff that movie does, like even with like the prologue, and then the big musical number in the middle of the movie. There are all these like things that I think that surprised her, and so it was fun to watch
Now, I'm
that
gonna
movie
feel
with
dumb
her
if I'm
and see
thinking of
her.
the wrong movie, but is this the one that did Tom Cruise get an Academy Award nomination for this?
Yes, yeah,
He
yeah.
did.
It's the Paul
Okay,
Thomas
yeah.
Anderson movie, exactly.
All right, what's next?
All right, this one's from Amin, and it's for Jeff. Any updates, scoops you can share about Last of Us Season 2? Is there any chance it releases by the end of this year?
I have no idea. I haven't heard anything about Last of Us. I would be surprised if it came out before the end of the year, although HBO needs some stuff. Like, what is on HBO on Sunday nights, guys?
Well, we've got two big things coming, right? So we've got
House of the Dragon.
we got
season
House
2,
of the
right?
Dragon season 2, and then we've got the Dune series, the
That's
Bene
Max,
Gesserit.
right? I guess
Yeah,
that's
that's coming
Max.
before the end of the year as well. So they got those coming. I think they just recently started shooting Last of Us season 2, so I don't think there's any possibility it
Yeah.
hits before the end of the
Also,
year.
The Penguin is coming out later this year.
That's
true.
right. That's because I was just thinking there's a third one. We've got House of the Dragon, we've got the Dune series, and there's a third one, Penguin series. So yeah.
I cannot wait for those Mondays when House of the Dragon finally
Oh.
premieres. The Mondays are gonna be. I'll be here an hour early. I'll be ready to go. I'll be ready to talk about.
Hold him
the
to that,
show.
John. Hold him to that.
All right, what's next?
Jai CSC says, man, Toranaga was shaping up to be one of my favorite TV characters. The ending shifts that opinion.
The ending enforces that opinion to me. I remember his motivation was still, and I don't want to go into it in too much detail for those who haven't seen it, but the motivation at his heart, Toranaga wants what's best for Japan. That at his heart, he just has a way that he thinks is the only way to do that, which is to become Shogun. And to understand that that was his intended path to bring peace and stability and the greatness of Japan to me, it only enforced it and added a new dimension. Understanding it, I was saying this through the whole series. Toranaga is playing chess when everybody else is playing checkers. It's just the way. And you see, he was thinking on multiple dimensions and seeing various scenarios the whole way through. I think for me personally, it just enforced the fact that he's one of the greatest characters ever. That extra complication and twist just made it even more so for me personally. All right, what's next?
All right. Also, is the Tremble Dust, is that comment still up on your screen there, John?
I don't see any comment up on my screen.
All right. Because it's showing up on your, when your image is up.
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah.
I'll double check that.
All right. Sepple fan says 16 years ago today, Iron Man was released. Also, has anyone seen my emotional support alligator?
Was that 16 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh man, I still I for those of you who don't know, I have a documentary that I made called Movie Trailers: A Love Story. You can go find it on Amazon or just search for it on Google, you'll find it. But I mean, there's a part of that documentary that we specifically talk about the first Iron Man trailer. And that there is no MCU without that first Iron Man trailer.
Yeah.
That they dropped at Comic-Con that year, and the avalanche of hype that came out of that really kickstarted the whole MCU. And just to remember that movie and man, that was 16 years ago Iron Man 1 came out?
April 30th, technically, so 2 days ago.
Oh my God. Anyway, all right. What's next?
CJ Rebirth says, finally saw The Greatest Showman last weekend, and I had a great time watching it, especially with the music. My favorite song from the movie is The Greatest Show. That's played at the opening and the end.
It's a fabulous song. And I remember one of the big UK award shows, Hugh Jackman hosted that year, and they opened the whole show. They should have opened the Oscars with this, but they opened the whole show with a big 150 person cast performance of This Is the Greatest Show. I think there are two songs in that. Actually, I think there are three songs in the movie that are even better than that one. Rewrite the Stars by Zac Efron and Zendaya is a powerful, powerful tune. This Is Me kind of became the anthem of that movie. But for me, the one that moves me the most, and I find myself listening to the most, is the Hugh Jackman solo song From Now On. These eyes will not be blinded by the lights. It's such a, I get emotional when I think about it. Seriously, it might be, it might compete with Moulin Rouge as my all-time favorite musical movie. I mean, I loved it that much. And Ray, can you look up for me how much money it made? How much did The Greatest Showman end up making at the box office? Here's a cool stat. Actually,
I got it here. I already had it open.
You got it?
438. Wait, you want to know domestic or worldwide?
Worldwide.
438.
Okay. So I want to put this in perspective for you. I got to see if I can bring this up first. Here we go. Okay. So I want you to look at this number here, $435 million it made at the box office. Now look at this number. It had an $8 million opening weekend. And that wasn't a limited release. You want to talk about word of mouth? You want to talk about legs? When's the last time, I'm not saying it's never happened, when's the last time a movie opened in its full release to under $10 million and went on to make over $400 million at the box office?
The closest I can think of was, and it didn't qualify because it's not over, but My Big Fat Greek Wedding was, it made opening $600,000 and it went on to make $368 million.
By the way, My Big Fat Greek Wedding holds the Hollywood record for the most weeks in the top 10 at the box office, but never being number one. It was never number one at the box office, but just hung around. That's word of mouth, word of mouth, word of mouth. It was, it's so good, that movie. I love that movie so much.
The most recent movie, it didn't clear 400 million, but it was Anyone But You, which opened to 6 million and cleared 219
that
worldwide.
way overperformed what I thought it was going to be.
And
huge multiple.
were you at CinemaCon last year?
Yeah.
That's the one movie I came out of CinemaCon last year going, that looks like a bag of shit. That I am so excited about not watching that movie. And then it turned out to be this really great little rom-com, and that might revive rom-coms. All right, what's next? Last question of the day.
Okay, Dark Smirk says, "Greetings all. After seeing Alien in theaters, I got excited for Alien Romulus. If it does well, could the studio pick up that Neil Blomkamp's Legacy sequel reboot, or move forward with an Alien Isolation adaptation?"
I think if Alien Romulus does well, they'll continue on going down original ideas. The Neil Blomkamp thing is never going to happen. Although I really like Neil's last film, the video game car race movie.
Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
Another movie that I thought looked like junk. And then I watched it, like, I am surprisingly engaged in this film.
It was good.
It was really quite good. And Neil Blomkamp needed a good one after the disasters that was...
Demonic, right?
Which one?
Didn't he do like that really low budget, like hunk of crap? I think it was called Demonic.
Oh, did he do Demonic?
Yeah, I think
I know he did Chappie, which was terrible. And then he did that one with Jodie Foster and Matt Damon, Elysium, which I also thought was I was so excited for that. It was garbage. So then he does this little low budget video game movie adaptation, Gran Turismo, that nobody had any expectations for. And he did a nice little job. Are they going to go back to that? No chance in hell. They're not going to do that one. But I'll tell you what, I wasn't all that interested in this Alien Romulus movie before CinemaCon, and CinemaCon made me interested in it.
It looked real good.
Yeah, the stuff they showed us looked really hot. All right, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here, making this little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those questions. Number one, because you gave us fun things to talk about, but number two, you supported this channel as you did it, and all of us involved in the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. Don't forget to come back and join us tomorrow, where, amongst other things, I'm sure we're going to be talking about Paul Walter Hauser joining Fantastic Four. Until then, I want to thank the people in the room with me. Ray Ora,
See you later.
Jonathan
See you
Voico,
tomorrow.
and of course, joining us from The Insnider, that you can find online, Jeff Snyder. Jeff, where can people find you?
TheInsnider.com. I think if you guys like the John Campea Show, you'll like the newsletter. Give it a shot for a month. Thanks so much.
And thank you to all you guys for joining us today. Until next time, my friends, bye-bye.